The Journey to a New Home English Listening Story. Welcome back to another English listening story. Today we have a heartwarming story about a young girl named Dalisay, who leaves everything she knows behind and travels to a new country far away. It is a story about family, friendship, courage, and discovering that home can sometimes be found in unexpected places. Listen carefully and enjoy the story. The sweet smell of jasmine drifted through the open window of a small apartment in Manila. 8-year-old Dalisay sat quietly on the floor, carefully arranging her collection of seashells. Each shell came from a family trip to the beautiful beaches of Luzon, and each one held a special memory. Dalisay loved her life. In the mornings, she ate breakfast with her grandmother. In the afternoons, she played with her friends in the neighborhood. And in the evenings, she listened to her father's wonderful stories about magical creatures from Filipino folklore. Her world was familiar. Her world was happy, and she believed it would always stay that way. But one humid evening, everything changed. Dalisay's mother sat beside her on the old floral sofa. She gently took Dalisay's small hands in hers. "Anak, I need to tell you something important," her mother said softly. "Your father has found an opportunity in England. We will be moving there in 3 weeks." Dalisay looked at her mother in surprise. "England?" she asked. The word felt strange on her tongue. "Where is that?" Her mother brought out an old atlas. She opened it and pointed to a small island very far away from the Philippines. Dalisay had to look carefully to find it. "Your father needs to find work," her mother explained. "We also want to help your grandparents and your aunt." But Dalisay wasn't thinking about money or work. She was thinking about her friends. "But what about everyone here?" she asked. Tears began to fill her eyes. "I don't know anybody in England. I'll be all alone." That night, Dalisay couldn't sleep. She quietly climbed out of bed and took her photo album from beneath her pillow. In the soft moonlight, she looked at the photographs. Her cousins, her school friends, her grandparents. How could she leave them all behind? The thought of saying goodbye to her grandmother made her heart ache. The following days passed quickly. There was packing, there were hugs, and there were many tearful goodbyes. Her classmates made her a farewell card with colorful messages. Her teacher gave her an English picture dictionary, and her best friend, Malaya, promised to write letters to her. On her final night in Manila, Dalisay carefully placed her seashell collection inside a small wooden box. She looked around her room. "I don't want to go," she whispered. "I don't know anything about England. I don't even speak much English. And I'll be all alone." The journey began early the next morning. First, the family traveled through the busy streets of Manila to the airport. Then, they flew to Singapore. They waited there for many hours in a huge and beautiful airport. Finally, they boarded a large plane that would take them to London. Dalisay held her stuffed turtle tightly as the plane rose into the sky. She looked out the window. Slowly, the Philippines disappeared beneath the clouds. Her old life was getting farther and farther away. London's Heathrow Airport was huge and confusing. There were people everywhere. There were announcements that Dalisay could barely understand. She held her mother's hand tightly. Her father spoke to the airport officials in English. Then, the family took another flight to Birmingham. This would become their new home. But England was very different from Manila. The cold winter air shocked Dalisay. In the Philippines, she was used to warm sunshine. Here, the cold air touched her cheeks, and her breath became white in the air. The sky was gray. The buildings were gray. Everything felt unfamiliar. Their new home was a small apartment in a tall building. The neighbors rarely smiled. They rarely spoke. During the first month, Dalisay spent many hours sitting by the window. She watched unfamiliar birds in unfamiliar trees. Her father searched for work. Her mother tried to make their new apartment feel like home. But Dalisay missed Manila. At night, she sometimes cried quietly into her pillow. She missed the busy streets. She missed hearing people speak Tagalog. She missed her friends and her family. Her mother tried to cook Filipino food when she could find the ingredients. But sometimes, the familiar food only made Dalisay miss home even more. One morning, Dalisay sat at the kitchen table and looked sadly at a bowl of cereal. Her mother smiled at her. "You'll be starting school tomorrow," she said. Dalisay looked up quickly. "No, please, I'm not ready." But her mother gently shook her head. "It will be good for you to leave the house and meet new people. Your father and I are very proud of how brave you've been." The next morning, Dalisay tried everything to avoid going to school. She said she had a headache. Then she said her stomach hurt. She even said she couldn't walk properly. But her mother smiled. She knew exactly what Dalisay was doing. Soon, they arrived at the school gates. A teacher with curly red hair was waiting for them. "Hello there. You must be Dalisay," the teacher said with a warm smile. "We're very happy to have you join us." Her name was Mrs. Murray. The classroom was bright and colorful. 20 curious faces turned to look at Dalisay as she walked inside. Her cheeks became warm. Suddenly, all the English words she knew seemed to disappear. "Class," Mrs. Murray said, "this is Dalisay. She has come all the way from the Philippines to join us. Let's make her feel welcome." But the morning was difficult. Dalisay understood only a few of the words around her. When the teacher asked her to introduce herself, she became completely silent. At lunchtime, she didn't know where to sit. The food looked strange, and she felt very lonely. Then a girl with braids quietly moved her bag and made space at her table. Dalisay smiled, but she was still too nervous to speak. After lunch, Mrs. Murray came to Dalisay. She gently took her hand. "This afternoon, you'll be going to another classroom," she said. "It's a special class for children who are new to England." Dalisay felt nervous again. She walked slowly toward room 12. Then, she knocked on the door. Inside, the classroom looked very different. Maps of many countries covered the walls, and the word "welcome" was written in many different languages. A kind teacher wearing a beautiful patterned hijab smiled at her. "Come in, Dalisay," she said warmly. "My name is Mrs. Mahmood. Today, we're going to read a story. Later, we'll play some games and do some painting." Dalisay looked around the room. The children came from many different places. One boy was from Zimbabwe. 2 girls spoke Polish to each other. There was a girl from Albania, and a small boy from Iran was building a tower with blocks. For the first time, Dalisay realized something. She wasn't the only person who had come from far away. Then, suddenly, she heard something that made her stop. Someone was speaking Tagalog. It was a language she knew, a language that sounded like home. At the back of the room, a girl with a ponytail looked up. "Filipina ka ba?" she asked. Dalisay's eyes grew wide. The girl was asking if she was Filipino. "Ooh," Dalisay replied. A feeling of happiness filled her heart for the first time in many weeks. "Come and sit next to me," the girl said happily. "My name is Kalia. I've been here for 6 months. Don't worry. Mrs. Mahmood is a wonderful teacher. She will help you learn English." That afternoon, something began to change inside Dalisay. The children painted pictures of their home countries. They sang simple English songs. They played games together. And for the first time since arriving in England, Dalisay laughed. Before the school day ended, Kalia invited Dalisay to meet her parents. She promised to show her a nearby shop where they could buy Filipino snacks. Dalisay smiled. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone after all. As Dalisay walked home with her mother, she talked excitedly about her day. She told her about Ahmed from Iran, who had shared his cookies with her. She talked about the Polish girls, who had taught her a fun clapping game. And she talked most of all about Kalia. "Mom," Dalisay said excitedly. "Kalia lives only 3 streets away." Her mother smiled. For the first time in a long time, she saw happiness in her daughter's eyes. That night, Dalisay's father came in her room to say goodnight. Dalisay looked at the seashells she had arranged on the windowsill. They still reminded her of the Philippines. They still reminded her of home. But the sadness in her heart was no longer as strong as before. She looked at her father. "Do you think I'll ever feel like I belong here?" she asked. Her father gently touched her hair. "Home isn't just a place, Anik," he said softly. "Home is where you find people who care about you. Look how many new friends you found today." Dalisay thought about her new friends. Then she smiled. As she closed her eyes, she realized something important. England was still strange. There were still many things she didn't understand, and she still missed the Philippines. But she wasn't facing this new world alone anymore. Perhaps home could be more than one place. Perhaps home could be anywhere, as long as there were people there to share it with you. And with that thought, Dalisay slowly fell asleep, dreaming of old memories and new beginnings. Thank you for listening to this story. Remember, starting a new chapter in life can be frightening. Everything may feel strange at first, but sometimes a new place brings new friendships, new opportunities, and a new kind of home. See you in the next English listening story.